But this would be a cultural solution, something that, I mean, we've all advocated Trump should have done. When he was president, he should have just signed up for Gab. I think he should have put his posts on Gab. That would have sent a huge message to the mainstream media that was smearing him. He didn't do it.
No,
so
he didn't.
I can respect.
But let's also say maybe it had to do with the staff, because I can tell you now, people think that people like President Trump or people like me or someone else that people like in politics, they think that we have all day long and we control all of it. We don't. I mean, we can't. Who can do everything in one day?
This is why when I asked about censorship, I said, can you even do anything? Right? Because I kind of
I'm going to tell you no, because I'm going to be really honest.
Right.
Here, I'm going to tell you something. I got really angry because I got disappointed in Republicans. That's why I ran for Congress. I was like, Republicans didn't do anything they told me they were going to do on the campaign trail. They very much disappointed me. And when I saw Republicans fail, when we had a Republican president in the White House, Republican-controlled House of Representatives, and a Republican-controlled Senate, that was in 2017 and 2018, and they didn't repeal Obamacare. I'm sorry if you support that. They didn't repeal it, but that took my family's health insurance premiums from $800 a month to over $2,400 a month. I was really upset that the Republicans who said they were going to do something about it did nothing about it. And then I cared about border security, and they didn't build the wall. They didn't even fund it. And I was like, wait a minute, you guys all ran for Congress on this stuff. And I think there's a lot we need to do about immigration. And I don't always agree with all the things that have been thrown out there, but they didn't do anything. And I'm very pro-life. I think abortion is terrible. I can't even, as a mom, it's so sad to me that women are sold a lie that they have to have an abortion in order to have a professional career or to have value in any way. I think motherhood's the greatest way to have value, but Republicans did nothing. So my point is this, going back to censorship, no, I don't trust Congress to fix it. I don't. That's why I'm telling you, I believe in the American people. I believe in starting new companies. I believe in starting new platforms. And I believe the people can solve the problem because we still have the freedom and the ability to do it.
The challenge is, with Parler and Gab, really good examples. Mm-hmm. Gab was smeared relentlessly by the press. Then they had their infrastructure attacked by Silicon Valley. Right. Parler was the exact same thing. They lied about them. And then these big tech companies use the fake news as a pretext to go after the infrastructure.
Right. You want to know why?
Why is that?
Their competition.
But right. So
they'll put Twitter and Facebook out of business.
This big tech lobby and the media collusion, and they're all working to support the Democratic establishment and to a certain extent the Republican establishment too, not Republican outsiders.
Oh yeah.
How can a regular person start up a company? And I'll give a shout out to Gab, right? Andrew Torba, the founder of Gab.
Gab is great. I'm on Gab.
They're building their own infrastructure.
God bless them.
But it's crazy that that's what you have to do because all of these companies work together they collude.
It's corporate communism. I'm going to go back to it over and over. Let me explain. I'm a small business owner. That's what I've always been. It is really hard to compete and bid on projects against big companies because they have everything set up. So that was hard for us for a long time. And then we had to work harder than anyone to build our company to a place where we were like, yeah, we're landing these contracts over and over because we've built a good reputation. We've built the relationships and we're able to do it. This is what Gab and GETTR and Telegram and these other companies are up against. This is what Rumble is up against. They're the little guy that has just gotten in the pond, and these giant fish want to devour them. And they're so evil. Here's what's really bad. They collude together. This is why I call it corporate communism. I know it's a weird idea and people aren't used to it, but communism is control. It's control through government and big corporations together, and they become this really small elite at the top, and everyone else is these little fish down at the bottom that can never rise to the level because the media, what did they do? They totally trashed Parler, they totally trashed Gab and tore them down. And I think they said there was like, oh, it's platform for white supremacists or something like that.
I agree with you a lot. I think it's a cultural it's a cultural change that needs to happen. I think if Trump was just in the middle of his first term said, I'm going to go on Gab or Minds or something, then it would have forced the media to do it. That would have just put a stake right through the heart of these vampiric entities. He didn't do it. And so perhaps it's just going to be we have to build up confidence in these other platforms ourselves, no matter how hard it's going to be.
The problem is if you have a platform, it can ban you at any time. That's always going to be the case. And I agree with you. I'm not big government. And for the government to say you can't seems fascist. So I like that they're allowed to do whatever they want. But I think I have an idea that we can toss around Congress is that if we can force free software code for social networks that are super large, basically functioning as part of the commons, so that other people have access to the software code and can start their own website with that, basically that same technology is awesome with like the analytics and the messaging and all that, and build their own terms of service on their version. You can have the networks.
He's a communist. Yeah,
I was going to say, you guys believe in limited government. I believe in no government. But we also have to admit the fact that the government was involved in building up big tech, whether it's Q&Tel, whether it's helping them build the infrastructure, whether it's Google Maps. I say, for me personally, there is action to take. Give it all back. You took it. You took all the tax incentives. You took all the infrastructure. You were able to make leaps and bounds because of your relationship with government. It ends now. And I think if we just cut off government from the private sector, I think that would be the most important thing that we could do, because there is collusion. There are a lot of lobbyists, and they're literally, I think, working with intelligence agencies in such a cohesive way that there's no separating them from the state and private entities. It's nothing different for me, from my perspective.
This is my new buddy for dinner on Wednesday nights.
Chili cheese dogs.
Yeah.
Cheeseburgers.
Let me ask you this: it's campaign season. I mean, some people have been campaigning nonstop. There's never.
I feel like that's all we do is campaign.
That's
really
so
ridiculous.
annoying.
But they've just taken away. Twitter is one of the biggest social platforms in the world.
Yeah.
When they say, "Oh, make your own Twitter," that's like saying there's one major football stadium of people where everyone talks, and they're going to tell you to go to a high school, football field. That is. Here's where I'm getting to. Do you have any plans to go after Twitter for unfair election practice or election interferences or unfair practices as it pertains to giving your opponents access to this network and taking it away from you?
Well, I'm going to say this because I'm still talking with my attorneys. Everything's on the table right now. So I don't have an exact, I can't lay out my exact plan because obviously everyone's just coming back from the holidays. But I'm still in discussions with my attorneys. I think I have a lot of options, and I think Twitter has a lot to worry about. And here's why. I'm an elected member of Congress, and no one elected Twitter, and no one appointed them to be this god of information and misinformation. And so for like Dr. Malone, which is really shocking to me that he was permanently banned. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to get into the science of COVID vaccines. I don't think it's appropriate to get into that for me. But Dr. Malone played a giant role in the mRNA technology for these vaccines. I would think his voice is definitely more credible than Twitter's ability to judge if he's misinforming the public about COVID-19.
Isn't there a bit of a contradiction? I mean, if you feel that the government can't solve this problem, is filing a lawsuit to challenge a private company's decision to remove you the right path?
No, I definitely think I'm a big believer. So there's a difference. There's our justice system, right? So we're three branches of government. So you don't always want to rely on the lawmaking body. That's what I'm a member of Congress. That's the lawmaking body. But the justice system, I believe in, and this is one of the reasons why I have really gotten involved with the pretrial January 6th defendants, not in their cases, because I'm very much against the riot on January 6th, but I've been very concerned about how they've been treated pre-trial, because I believe in due process, but I believe in the ability to take a case to court and to say, here's where I've been wronged, and to be able to defend myself and have necessary action taken.
Oh wow, that's a great distinction. Passing a law is very different from having a court uphold, say, a contract or a standard.
Right, exactly.
Well, I suppose it'll be interesting to see what your argument. You said you have options on the table. It'll be interesting to see what you end up putting forward. There's didn't Dr. Robert Malone say he was going to be suing as well? And
there's a lot of people suing.
Yeah, it's not just Malone. It's also McCullough. It's also Robert Kennedy Jr. It's also a large swath of other doctors that are getting hit, that are getting censored all over the place, whether it's Instagram, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter. Slowly but surely, they're boiling the frog here and trying to take away any kind of dissenting voices, creating more establishment echo chambers, and creating a situation where even just looking in the wrong direction or burping in the wrong direction will get you kicked out of normal society. I think this is all done in collusion with the 2030 vision, the kind of social credit score. And these individuals are working hand in hand with government. And I think I agree with you. The private kind of solution is needed there more than ever. But I think the word needs to get out there. But how can the word get out there when it's being censored and controlled on the information highways by the people who built it? So that's such an interesting paradox that's very difficult. But this is why I may agree with you, I may disagree with you. It doesn't matter. Our voice still should be heard no matter what it is. And the fact that it's being censored is just atrocious. And the fact that it's being politicized in such a way, it's so obvious what they're doing right now. And I think we better wake up or we're going to be boiling very soon. And I think the first bubbles have already popped up. And excuse me, but I think you're one of the big bubbles that came up there. You're making people realize how hot the water is.
Yeah.
They ban a sitting president. And Trump was, it was the end of his first term. So people said, well, it's the end of his first term. No, Marjorie, you're in Congress right now.
Yeah, and I have my polling numbers. We just did them a few weeks ago. They're unbelievable. I have so much support in my district. I think it was like 54% said they would elect me no matter who ran against me.
Wow.
That's really high. But I have like a 71 or 72% support rating. There hardly anyone elected has that type of support. I'm not an outgoing member of Congress. I'm very much a supported member of Congress.
Even in that capacity, there's still another year basically of you in Congress doing work.
Right.
And you're going to be affecting federal laws. The people of every state, of every city, every citizen of this country, they need to know what you think and why you think it. And Twitter decided to strip that away from you. That, I think, is you want to talk about lawsuits, you want to talk about personal ethics or fairness, all of that aside, Twitter is harming the United States by doing this.
I think so, too. I see it as a complete attack on our government. It's an attack. It's not only an attack on our government, it's an attack on over 700,000 people that live in Georgia's 14th district that I'm supposed to represent. Twitter is acting as an enemy, is a complete enemy to our American system, everything the way it's set up. And again, it's corporate communism. I'll say it over and over and over again. This is not how private companies should act. Think about this. Any other private company that attacked a member of Congress, let's say that I'm somewhere and someone comes up and puts their hand over my mouth. Do you think that something's not going to happen to them? Oh, believe me, they're going to have serious consequences to pay. Well, but Twitter did that to me.
Did you see the? It gets brought up a lot because I guess it was people liked it, they enjoyed it when I was on Joe Rogan's podcast with Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, it was great.
There was one really important point. I think the most important point was when I mentioned to Jack, they have a policy on misgendering. That policy is a leftist worldview. Half the country disagrees with it. That is Twitter overtly saying, we will allow left worldview and ban right worldview. This is going to rip. I told him this in 2018. It was 2018, I think. I said, if you keep doing this, this country is going to get ripped apart. And look where we've gone with people being shot in the streets, with the January 6th, with just people in this country are ready to explode.
Which is so sad because we really shouldn't be. Look, here's my thing. I'm a big believer there's only two genders, and I don't mean to offend anybody. If some guy wants to run around in a dress and he wants to call himself a woman, that's his thing, but I'm not going to call him a woman because I think he's a man. And I don't think you should be kicked off of Twitter just because you think there's only two genders and you're kind of going along with what the chromosomes say with gender and sex. But no, you're right. You can't just force one worldview or one type of culture or anything. That's like saying, oh, you're only allowed to be on this platform if you're a Christian. Well, can you imagine the outrage over that?
This is exactly why I've always had a problem with it. When we had a fellow on the show, I said the problem I take with critical race theory praxis in schools, like actually indoctrinating kids, is I would take issue with public schools telling a kid to pray the Hail Mary 5 times or whatever. If a public school says we want you to do this religious practice, I'd be like, hey, you can go to your private religious practice for this. Critical race theory, this left worldview, is a religion. It's very much so. So I take issue with any kind of indoctrination. My view is, teach the kids, let them learn, let them develop and think for themselves, teach them how to think critically, teach them history, teach them real history.
Let
them figure it out, give them guidance. But instead what we get are people who simultaneously claim that, I'll just be reiterating your point. For Twitter to say you have to agree with our worldview would be like if Twitter was a Christian company that made leftists agree with the teachings of the Bible or they'd be banned. Yeah.
Absolutely. That is 1,000% what it is. They believe this on what they have to say about climate. This is what they enforce on how what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say, or what's accepted speech about gender. It's what is accepted speech about, say, BLM, for instance. What is accepted to talk about January 6th. Twitter literally right now has something set up for tomorrow for the anniversary of January 6th for violence that may be tweeted. So they're only allowing one view of January 6th and not maybe other stories or videos. I mean, think about that. What if people are wanting to post their videos and they're not going to allow it?
I also believe there's an element of it that is something that is snobby elites thinking that they could control what you could listen to. And I think that's one of the most patronizing, that's one of the lowest level kind of thinking individuals that you could have with this larger idea that you yourself don't have any discernment. You don't have any personal responsibility. You need to be told what you can and cannot listen to. That idea is absolutely absurd. It's criminal. And the fact that individuals control what you could see, when they control the algorithms, they control people's perceptions. They control our views of the world. And when you control that, you could control almost everything. And that's why and the intelligence agencies have been so involved with big tech, and that's why I think there's even a bigger play here that, of course, is snobby, is very elitist, but it's essentially leading to the divide and conquer agenda and trying to control individuals by controlling thoughts.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.